So welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success story series of interviews where we discuss with local business leaders, their backgrounds, their successes and challenges, and what really drives them forward. And today I'm delighted that we have with us Zoe Sinclair, who's the director at Ambiente Tapas. So Zoe, welcome. And if you'd firstly like to introduce yourself to the audience and what you do and how Ambiente Tapas serves the local community.
Morning, Chris. Thank you for having me. We set up Ambiente in 2007 in the local market, our local market town of Malton, and we have grown incrementally since then to 5 restaurants over York, Leeds and Hull. We closed Malton down in 2010. And over those 13, 14 years, we have seen all sorts of changes in both the business itself and the world in general.
Yes, I can imagine. Well, could you tell us a little bit more about sort of maybe your background and how you got into this particular business?
It was literally, it was a hobby. It was one of those things that a lot of people look at, they think, well, restaurant, fantastic, easy to do, and it's not. And we all know that the failure rate of restaurants is extremely high. But somehow we've lasted. We've kept it going. We hit the market at a time where nobody really understood what tapas was. There's a lot more understanding of that now. But we also hit it just at the right time when the casual dining sector of the restaurant business was starting, and it probably it grew and grew and probably got oversaturated in around 2018, where we lost a lot of the big players such as Jamie's and Carluccio's, or we lost a lot of them
Yes.
because I think some of those businesses grew far too quickly, and they took on properties that just didn't justify the rent that they were paying. But we've gone for sustainable growth throughout. We've grown our management team sustainably. We've got a very good management team, which has meant that over the years, Tim and I have managed to take not so much a step back from the business, but we've taken out parts of the business that we originally had ourselves, and we've given them we've set up separate departments, such as marketing, bookings, accounting, and to be honest, pardon the language, but I've just been left with the shit jobs now. The ones that nobody else wants to do.
I'm not sure you've got delegation quite mastered there.
No, but some you know yourself that some jobs are a lot easier to recruit than others, and
Yes,
when it comes to things that dealing with utilities, for example, nobody wants to do that.
It's no, I totally understand it. I think obviously they end up being the last things, but they are worthwhile things to delegate if we can.
Yeah.
So growing up, was this something that you always wanted to do? No,
absolutely not. Well, I did grow up in a catering background actually, but I started off life as a quantity surveyor, and I made and lost a small fortune in the over the period of 10 years, and hit the banking crisis in 2013 and lost everything and had to start again. Luckily at that time we had a crossover with the restaurants that we'd set up as a hobby, and that very quickly we had to make that into something that we were having to live off. Goodness, wowzers, that's a bit of a revelation, I know. And it's something that to be honest, it's something I've never spoken about publicly before, because it took me a long time to regain my confidence after that. It was something that came out of no fault of our own. It was just the fact that we had half-built houses when the banks decided they were going to withdraw lending to house builders, and that was the end of it. It happened very, very quickly.
Yeah, and very successful people. There's very few successful people that haven't come through various challenges over time. I think it's part of the journey often is is learning from the things that
Yeah.
can go wrong. And
because there's no handbook for things like this. There's no handbook for insolvency, liquidation, and there was no handbook for COVID.
No,
you learn a lot from it, but you've got to learn to take the punches.
Yes, we definitely, but also hopefully learn to celebrate the successes, which isn't always the case with entrepreneurial people, I find.
Well, I just think as British people, we're not particularly good at that, and I think we've just got to blow out of the water the whole concept of imposter syndrome and just get on with it and celebrate our successes rather than go, oh, I don't really deserve this.
It really is important, Zoe, in my opinion, for what I do is because entrepreneurial people typically focus most of their time on what is yet to achieve, what they haven't done, what's next. But if we don't look back occasionally but regularly and look at how far we've come, then it becomes, then we're not actually building up that level of self-confidence, I think you mentioned earlier, and say, no, actually, I'm doing a good job. I'm doing a good job here to get this far. And I think you said you're 14 years in business right now.
In the restaurant trade, and really, I do question how have we done it. What keeps me going? But there's got to be something.
Absolutely.
Because people still say to me, "Are you from a restaurant background?" 14 years in. How long do you have to work in an industry to be accepted?
So what I mean, I think you mentioned one or two already, but what are some of the biggest issues you've had to overcome over this 14 years?
Over the 14 years, we've seen a big technological change, which is as somebody in their 50s, or both of us are in our 50s, my husband, now husband, is that we've embraced technology, but that's also, it's pushed us out slightly because we realise, we accept that we are not as quick as the guys that we employ at anything. They pick up everything so much more quickly when it's technology based.
Yes.
And the whole business relies massively on technology, which has again changed our lifestyle as well, because it means that we can get away from the business during normal times more, but we are never actually absent. We are never away from it.
Yeah.
We can be physically away, but we are never away because we are connected. CCTV, live booking system, live taking system, live bank stream, and the phone is ringing pretty much 24/7. So it is a double-edged sword, is the technology side of things. But yeah, we've survived flood in York in 2015 down Fossgate, which was interesting. But again, it brought the community together. But more recently, obviously, we've got through COVID, and we've got through COVID a lot more, a lot stronger and a lot leaner than we were. It's actually, we didn't think it at the time, but it has brought about a lot of positive changes within the business.
Yes.
And then the other big thing in my life, which should have changed things but didn't, was that I was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2018, and then I think I should have stopped and gone, well, this is a game changer, but I didn't. I just kept working through that. So there's some biggies there to discuss and unpick. But it's not until you sit down and have a chat like this that you think, well, yeah, I've not just been sitting on my ass for 14 years.
Goodness, no, blimey, that's there's some real knocks, and especially obviously COVID hitting the hospitality industry so hard. It's again, I think we talked just before we started that surviving these the things like COVID are amazing successes for many businesses, but especially in the hospitality industry. So you're really well done.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was, but as I say, it was a very frightening time. There was a lot of nights slept on the office floor trying to work out how we were going to get cash to our staff, really, because we had to bankroll. Furlough was a great thing, initially anyway, but we had to bankroll that for 6 weeks.
Yes.
We didn't get any money back from the government for 6 weeks, and we wanted to support the staff, and in our business, that was £120,000 when there was nothing actually coming through. It was just like turning a tap off.
Yeah.
There was no cash in. There was probably about £20,000 worth of wasted stock, because we couldn't even give it away to soup kitchens, etc., because everybody was in that same situation.
Yeah.
It was we bought in for what we thought was going to be a busy weekend, and then that was it, closed. And we didn't know what was happening. Nobody knew what furlough was.
No.
And it was a massive steep learning curve with 130 people saying what's happening. And when you don't have the answer, that's very difficult for somebody like myself who's a natural problem solver.
Yeah.
When you don't have an answer for anybody, it can hit really hard.
Yes, I can imagine. So what we say some of the biggest things you've learned over, both in business and in life over the last few years?
Over the last few, there's a lot of things down to staying power and being able to get up after a knock and just keep going, even when everything else is collapsing around you. You've got to get out of bed and you've got to tackle those issues as much as you don't want to, and as much as you just think there is no answer to this. Halfway through the first lockdown was a very scary point. It was like,
yes, where
are we going? There was no end point to the lockdown. There was no money coming in, and what's going to happen? We've spent at that point invested 12 years of our life in this business that we've not taken any money out of.
Yeah.
And that has been one of the main lessons, is stop reinvesting all the time. You've got to take some money out for yourself. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs and small business people have got a problem with that. And it does come, again, it comes down to that imposter syndrome type scenario, is that you sometimes don't feel like you deserve it.
Yeah.
But when you see everything go, when you see that 12 years of your life flash before your eyes, totally unexpectedly and totally out of your life, you think, well, just hang on a minute, I just need to start at least paying myself a living wage. Because it's very easy to get carried away and go, right, we need some more equipment here, we need to possibly open, there's another business opportunity, let's open another restaurant. It's like, well, we've just been busy fools. Let's just take a little bit out and live.
Yeah. I think it is important to do so, and just give us that level of financial resilience. That obviously something like the lockdown, COVID and the lockdown has taught us that we can't always foresee the challenges. So I mean, certainly COVID was something that I don't think anyone foresaw at this level. Economies come, rise and fall, and there are cycles going on in various things. But yeah, this sort of thing was unforeseeable, I think, and having a level of resilience is quite important.
Yeah, it gave us planning time. And yes. I just sort of brought the breast cancer thing in there as well, because at that point I should have taken stock. In 2018, I should have taken stock and gone, this is a game changer. I need to reassess my life, and I didn't. I just kept going. But with the COVID, we got that period of time for planning, because there was only so much we could do. We switched our business model to deliveries and cook at home boxes, etc.
Right.
But there was time to actually think, right, we're going to have to reinvent ourselves, and what can we do better? Where have we been losing money? Yes. So we use that as business planning time, even though it was quite difficult to motivate yourself when there was no end point to it, because it was really, are we going to survive this? But we did draw a line under it and said, right, let's have a positive mental attitude towards this and say we are going to survive this, and when we come out the other end, this is what we're going to look like. Because we had to communicate that to our staff as well. Yes, we had to keep them motivated. They were sitting at home not knowing what their future was, and we had to give some positive messages out to them as well. Brilliant.
The two things that come to mind are two of my favourite sayings, which is one is there's a Japanese proverb that says fall down fall down 7 times but get up 8.
Yeah.
And I think getting up more times than we fall down is resilience. But also going, with positive attitude. I think Henry Ford, whether we think we can or think we can't, we're right.
Yes.
And there is always a way. It's not can I, it's how can I.
Yeah. Well, my favourite one is you'll always be what you always were if you always do what you always did. And it's great to have that, but you need time to actually realign yourself.
Yes.
And that's what COVID gave us. And we tweaked the business, and it's something that we use a lot in exercise in my other business, which is a CrossFit gym, is that even small changes can make huge differences, and you've got to think about that a lot when you're training. And I think we need to do that a lot more in business as well.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things we do in Action Coaches, we look at this concept of the aggregation of incremental gains. Small changes multiplied together can make very significant changes, and it's just breaking our business down into its constituent parts and looking how can I improve each part, and by doing so we can make some quite significant changes. So any other sayings that you live by, or
that's my I've got lots of silly ones that especially when my husband or somebody will say to me, what are your dreams, and I've just as a quip I'll say I stopped dreaming years ago.
Oh no.
That's just a silly quip. It's just that I'd never envisaged myself being in the restaurant business at all.
Right.
And I do love it. I've got to say.
It's great. Well, it shows, and obviously the success is there to be seen by everybody. So well done, especially in such a difficult industry. The stats on businesses in general are pretty shocking in terms of failure, but but especially within the hospitality trade, to be here 14 years on is wonderful. What I'm interested in what you might have learned about yourself over that 14-year period.
Ooh, that's a difficult one. As I say, from the previous insolvency, I had completely and utterly lost my confidence, and it has taken me best part of 10 years to even start talking about it. And again, I think what it was is I always spent my younger years craving respect from older people. And I've wished a huge amount of my life away, wanting to be older so I got respect. And it's now taken me to say that that's not actually how you get respect. And the millennial generation have changed so much in that they've got Google now. They don't need to ask older people anything. So I've now found myself in my 50s with nobody respecting me because they got Google instead.
I'm sure that's not true.
So that's something that I wish I'd changed about my attitude to life. It was that I wish I hadn't wished that time of my life away by just wanting that respect of older people.
Yeah.
But I think it's all down again. I would love more respect from my parents, but I'm sure they do actually have a lot of respect and are hopefully proud of what I've done. But they get probably a Yorkshire thing that they don't actually talk about it.
That's a shame. I would venture to suggest I'm sure they are, but but no, you're right.
But we get plenty. We get so much good feedback from our customers.
Right.
That you live on that. But on the flip side, you do take the negatives very, very personally as well.
Yeah. But I think ultimately the mark of a business is what its customers think of it. So if you're getting great feedback, then that's really important. As you're probably aware, we're a coaching organisation. I'm interested to know who's the best coach you've ever had in any form of your life.
I think to my detriment, I've never had a coach, and I think it is probably something that in the UK that we suffer from most, is that we don't train our managers. We promote our worker bees, and I've seen it in the construction industry. I see it in the restaurant business all the time. I even see it as examples with Nestle, who are obviously one of the biggest employees in York, that we get very, very good worker bees, joiners, labourers, whatever, and waiters, waitresses, and then we reward them by giving them management positions, but we don't train them to be managers. It's a very different skill set. And I found myself running 2 businesses with a technical background, but no people management skills. Right. And I've never had a coach. Where I learned everything was I put the building company through Investors for People. Great. And that's where I learned all the management side of things. But I still think as a country we don't train our managers in managing people enough.
No, I often see working with owners of their own businesses. They often develop themselves, not necessarily, often on the job, if you like, that we learn through doing. But if we're not careful, we create a gap between us and the management team that are there to support us, because as you rightly say, we're not focusing on their learning and development. And we as owners, I think you mentioned earlier on, we as owners end up filling the gaps rather than actually delegating effectively by teaching and coaching and mentoring our management team to take things forward. But it's certainly a soluble thing. But if you've got great people and rewarding people with knowledge and education is probably the most valuable thing we can reward them with.
And I've got to say, most of our success in Ambiente is down to the people that we've got. Absolutely. That I am a talentless person, I've got to say. My one talent is finding talented people. I surround myself with wonderful people. And that is my one talent in life. I can tell a good egg from a bad egg.
I'm sure that's not completely true.
It is true.
But you're in great company. People like Richard Branson say similar things. It's about finding people that are better than us.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the areas
and actually putting our hands up and saying, "You're better than me."
Absolutely.
If anybody comes to me with something, if a restaurant manager comes to me with a problem with any techie stuff, I'd say, "I'm sorry, I just don't know." And it's being honest. About it, and say, just go to Rob, who's our area manager, and he's techie, but don't ask him anything technical about how a building's put together. Because he just has no clue at all. Come and talk to Tim and I, whose background is construction, and we'll talk about it. And I am female, but I do know how the plumbing system works. I do know how the electrics work.
I mean, it's very much is about, for me, the analogy is great when in a ship. It's like our job is to steer the ship. That's what we're there to do, and recruit people that are good at doing the things like, putting the sails up, weighing the anchor, all those sorts of things. If we end up doing that for them, then they're going to wonder who's steering the ship. So it is a role we have to master and lead, and our teams are expecting us to do so. So sometimes, it's easy to feel, oh, well, I'm helping out if I go and, stand alongside people and start helping out. But, they want to know that we've got our eye on the future, and that
we're very much steering that ship. We're no longer. Brilliant. And customers do say to us, we miss seeing you, but we just can't do it in the size of the business that we are, because there's so much time steering.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So looking forward, what does the future look like, and what challenges may you face as you move forward, if any?
Well, at our age, we've got to sort of start considering retirement and what that looks like, but it's a few years off yet. But it does scare me, because I'm not actually quite sure that I've reached my full potential yet. But don't
do it.
No, don't do it. No, don't do it. Just keep going. No, I think we've learned, as I said, we've learned a lot from COVID, and we've still got to continue to keep a close eye on how the market evolves, and just we are now pre-prepared if God forbid if we get another lockdown, and
great,
we're we're prepared for that. But there's always improvements to make. I think in the past we've been a little bit excitable when it's come to opening new restaurants. It's lovely to open a new restaurant, a new shiny restaurant, but there's still a lot of work to do on consolidation and drawing a little bit more profit out of what we've got already. Not as exciting, but you know, we have got to think about you know, retiring at some point, or at least taking some money and going and blowing it on a big trip across America, or
wonderful
something, yeah, something to reward ourselves for 14 years.
I think I meet a lot of people that fear the idea of retirement because they haven't planned it, because they don't know what they're going to do. So if that makes sense. So
Yes. Yeah.
and therefore driven people, the idea of retirement being stopping doing things is like a total anathema, but it doesn't need to be. It should really be what's the next thing that we can really do.
It is. I think not being needed anymore by is really difficult. That's going to be really difficult. We've got so many projects for retirement. We've got 6 classic cars in states of disrepair on the drive. Plans to travel. My passion is wine, and I have drunk far too much during lockdown, as many people have done. But I put structure to it. I got 2 qualifications out of it. But it's also given me wanderlust, reading about Chile and Argentina and New Zealand and Australia and South Africa, all the great wine production areas that I've never visited. In addition to finding new gems in France and Spain as well. So yeah,
don't forget
there's plenty to do, but I'm not sure I can cope with not being needed anymore.
I say don't forget the Barossa Valley in South Australia.
South Australia, yeah. Nice bit of Shiraz from Barossa. Yeah.
Absolutely stunning. It's stunning down there. Yeah. Interestingly enough, I don't know if you've ever seen the film, because I haven't, and I intend to watch it. It's a film called Sideways.
Yeah, love it.
And I know it's not just obviously about wine and the wine region, but it's supposed to be a brilliant film. So
yeah, it is. It's fantastic, and it's just on my 2nd year anniversary from swimming, doing the Escape from Alcatraz swim. So it was actually a customer this way, never say anything out loud if you don't mean it in my company. One of my customers in one of the restaurants was sort of talking to one of his friends and said, I really fancy swimming from Alcatraz, and I just went over and said, right, I'll do it with you.
Oh my goodness.
And he sort of went, oh, and we did it. 2 years after he'd mentioned it, we actually flew out to San Francisco and swam. We did the just over a mile swim, so 2 years ago. But then I mentioned that because that's the starting point of basically the journey down the Californian vineyards down Highway 1, which is stunning. It's just
it really is, isn't it? Yeah, it's an absolutely beautiful place. Yeah. I made the I had the pleasure of doing it, but made the mistake of doing it in one day. So it was a 13-hour drive, but it was it was beautiful, but
no, you need to take 3 or 4 days and go and visit some vineyards, and also go north into Napa Valley as well, because there's some fantastic, especially I love sparkling wines from Napa.
Lovely. No, that's absolutely perfect. We're clearly.
Let's do a podcast about wine as well.
Let's do that. That sounds like a plan to me. That would work for me definitely. And traveling. I mean, traveling absolutely is one of my key passions. But it sounds like you've got plenty of things to work on. So just really
always. My life is always full.
Good. So it's been really delightful. Just a few sort of questions to sort of wrap up. What would you say to anyone that was thinking of going into business right now?
I would say go for it, follow your dreams, but plan carefully. You can't plan for every eventuality, and there is a lot of luck involved. But do your business planning, but don't be frightened about following your dreams, because
well said.
If you don't do it, you'll always regret it.
Well said. I totally support that. And if you started your business again, is there anything that you would do differently?
Oh, so much. we haven't got enough time here. I think no. We've learned. The important thing is that you learn by your mistakes, and that's what we've done. you know, we've taken every mistake that we've made and tried to make a positive out of it. And yeah, we do keep making some mistakes over and over again, but we're not frightened to put our hands up to mistakes and learn from them.
Perfect. The founder of Action Coach, a guy called Brad Sugars, he told me many years ago that he's successful as he is, and he's very, very successful because he's made more mistakes than anybody else he knew. Not despite, it was the act of being willing to try things, to accept the mistakes, but get the learnings from it. And I think it was Mandela that said, he came up with a great phrase. He said, I never lose, I either win or learn.
Yeah, that's great. I like that. I'm taking that.
Please do.
I'm taking that one.
It's a pretty cool one, and yeah. You know that you know we also say there is no such failure. You know there is either successful feedback.
Yeah.
And if we take that on the chin, but it is the willing